Hi, it's Gadget UK here again, this time a Spectrum build. So the kit I got from Byte Delight, you can see it's come really nicely packaged here. We've got lots of components in each of these two bags here. This is like diodes, transistors, some resistors, speaker, connectors, capacitors, I think, yeah, more capacitors. Really nicely packaged. Byte Delight also sent it with these fruit waffle. So these, the company is based in the Netherlands actually. I've used them before. I did the stereo mod to my Spectrum using one of their kits, and maybe one or two other things, I think. But yeah, fantastic company. They sell some really nice kits and upgrades and things for the Spectrum. And other series of computers as well. We've got a little ESD bag here with the switch mode regulator there, the coil, the inductor, and I think that's the DAC, isn't it? It's got a bent pin on there, but anyway, we can straighten that. And you get all of the 7.4 series chips here. Now this is the Harlequin. So you'll have seen the Harlequin before on my channel. I think this is the same revision, Rev 6, is it, or Rev G? Maybe a G. Yeah, Conrad sent me one to look at, didn't he, to fix. He had some problems when he was assembling it, and there were a few issues. I'll stick a link up there to that video. But he allowed me to keep a PCB, he had a spare one. Now I've mixed these up, I think it was a green one, and I think this blue one came from Electron Ash. So yeah, I'd planned to build the one that Conrad sent me and then send this one on to Sparks, but I mixed them up, I think, so I think it looks like Sparks got the green one. They're identical, it's not the end of the world, and I got the one from Electron Ash. So yeah, consider this as a build of the board that Conrad left me. It's the same board, it's really not a big deal. I'm not that fussed about the colour. I thought they were the same. This is the thing, I thought they were both the same colour, and that's why I've made that mistake, I think. But anyway, I found this board a number of months ago, after I'd sent them on to Sparks actually, and then Sparks kindly offered to do an order because he wanted a kit. Pricing up all the components separately, it was working out very expensive. It just makes sense to go for a kit like this, because all the parts are of, a good trusted source, if you like, and things like the CPU and RAM and stuff will have all been tested. So yeah, really nice kit. So without further ado, I'm just going to show some highlights. I'm not going to go over every single part of this build because I've shown lots of things like this before, but I'll give an example of putting one resistor on, one cap on, one socket on, a transistor, etc., and I'll focus on any points of interest, things that you need to pay attention to, like getting the transistors around the right way, for example, or the surface mount soldering of that. Or that there, that's going to use quite a bit of heat, need quite a bit of heat there to solder that. But yeah, and let's have a look at this documentation here. There's a nice assembly manual, as you can see. So this is really nice. You can see the code thing there. You can scan with your phone, so it take you to the website. But the nice thing is with these, and I mentioned on that video as well, they've exploded the functionality of the ULA into all this discrete 7.4 series, so it makes it really easy to maintain moving forward. You're not at the mercy of the crusty Ferranti ULAs. I think that's upside down, isn't it? But nevertheless, we've got a full schematic there. That's nice. The print's a bit fine, you need a magnifier really to read what's going on there, but then we've got lay out the board here. We've got a list of all of the things in the kit, the diodes, the resistors, find value by part number, some pictures again where all the capacitors go, transistor sockets. It's fantastic, it's very comprehensive. I really like this documentation coming with this kit. It saves you so much effort trying to work out what's what and stuff here. You've got a couple of crystals there, for example. I didn't realise there were more than one, but that makes sense. You're going to have one for the colour burst, aren't you? One for the main clock, probably. Yeah, really nice kit. So after getting the components out of the bags, I'm really blown away. Every single bag is labelled up like this with the component, the board position, and then there's like a number. So you start with number 1, then you do number 2, then you do number 3, then you do number 4, and you do number 5, with all the part numbers and everything. So it's like, this is going to be a breeze. It really is. It must have taken an incredible amount of time to package up all of the components like that. There's loads of these little bags, maybe, I don't know, 70 odd of these little bags, I think, at least, something like that, 50 or 60 maybe. So that would take an awful lot of time to assemble and gather the components together and package up like that. It just makes me realise that this was definitely the best way to go. I would not try and attempt to source all the components to build one of these yourself. So yeah, the hard bit now is finding where these things are. So D9 helps if I have it the right way up, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll report back in a minute when I found D9. Right, D9 is here, where the screwdriver was there. Obviously it's going to get easier to build as you make more progress, and obviously the diodes have got a certain symbol on the board, so I was looking for that and I found all the others, but ironically that was the last one. So Esd Wrist Strap, I've just grounded myself. You should you know, do that, because you're handling the static sensitive components, certainly the diodes, transistors and ICs on here. And yeah, you can get tools to fold these so that they're exactly the right length, you know, the right spacing, but yeah, I tend to just go by eye. You know, you could just literally bend it one side and then bend it the other, approximately like that. The band is marked on the board towards the bottom here, so the black band there, just give it that way around and push it through. Now what you could do, what lots of people would do to speed up a build like this, there's different ways of building something like this, by the way, and this is what I'm about to just explain, is you could you know, pull these legs like this, bend them over like that, yeah, and then just fit the next diode and do that all the way around, so you've got, I don't know, a few dozen components like that, and then solder, cut. I tend to just go one component at a time and spend sufficient time to do a good job with the solder point on that, make it look nice and straight, and alignment and stuff. It's the same with the resistors. The resistors, you know, the bands go a certain way around. The tolerance bands, you could either have it at the top or the bottom, or you could just not care. I tend to try and stick, you know, have consistency all the way across the board, any board that I build. So yeah, I'm just going to go at it nice and slow and leisurely, and do a good job and inspect each component as I go along. The other thing with a build like this, you know, you could fly through it. If you stuck all the components like this through now, bent all legs over, solder, you know, cut, you could be done quite quickly. It might not look quite as tidy, but it'll be functional. But if you anything like me, you might want to just take your time with it and double check everything as you're going along. And this will be done over 2 or 3 or more days, I think. I'm not in a rush to do this today now when I'm filming. I'm just going to go through and see how bored I get as I've spent, I don't know, an hour or two, see where we're at, and then I'll pick up tomorrow. So anyway, let's just solder that diode into position. I forgot where it's gone already. It's down here, look. Yeah, so I'll just add a little bit of solder there. This solder contains flux, so yeah, it's advantageous to get solder that has flux in it, because then you don't need to add any additional. And you'll see it'll get really good flows on this. Anyway, that's that one done. So I can just flip it over, make sure it's fairly flat. Yeah, you can see it's raised up a bit. This is one reason why, you know, I'll do things like this manually, just to get everything presentation-wise nice and straight. Yeah, that's pretty level now. You can just snip the points off here, and then I'll do all the cleaning up at the end. I'm not going to bother removing any flux and stuff as I go along. There's just no point. But yeah, you can see the solder points there are okay, and we've got our first diode on. So I've got 3 diodes on there now. You can see here I just added a little bit of solder on the top side there. Sometimes I'll do that to get a nice flow on both sides. I quite like it when there's solder on both sides, actually. Can make it harder to remove when you do that. So the bridge rectifier, it's dead obvious. It's got 4 connections here, but if you spread them out into a positive sort of shape like that, so they're straight outwards, the top pin here, the one nearest us, that's positive. It's got a positive marking. That wants to go in that position there. So yeah, it's important you get this around the right way. You know, it's a bridge. It's going to contain 4 diodes. You can get that quite low. I'd be tempted to try and stand it off the little board a little bit though. So yeah, it's not completely flat. You're going to have space inside your case, and if you put it right flat with the board, it's going to contain heat a little bit worse, isn't it? You know, it's not going to dissipate heat, is the point I'm trying to make. So I'll just carefully solder one point, and I'll just make sure it's straight. Absorbing a lot of heat there. This is where you might need a chunkier tip. If you come across certain things you're soldering where you're thinking, oh, that's not flowing very well, consider increasing the temperature on your iron. But yeah, a bigger tip will help transfer the heat more. This tip is really fine. I tend to just leave this on here for when I'm doing really fine SMD stuff, and it's okay with things like this if you give it time. But of course, you know, you could apply more temperature. And the worst case on connections you're really struggling with your iron, if you've got something like I have, one of these dual clone desoldering stations, just consider using that for the odd solder points. You may, you know, it can seem counterintuitive using a desolder station to solder something, but you'll be surprised because that's got a lot more power I think it's rated at something like 70 watts or something. Yeah, so things like this, if you were struggling, you could just use a desolder station temporarily on that. There's 1 or 2 points that you struggle with. Let's get those off. I think I need some new cutters actually. There we go. There's a particle of solder there. Yeah, that's not too bad. So that's our bridge on, and yeah, it stood off the board a little bit. So next we've got D13, this pretty beefy one that's going to go here. But I figure it's going to be better and easier to get this on first because you've got a bit of surface mount soldering there. So let's do that. Now it's important to know, if you're not very good at surface mount stuff, and that's what's putting you off doing this kit, it will fit these for a very small price for you. So you can have these already on there. You can see what I mean about the bent pins there, can you see that? 1 or 2 of those have got knocked in transit. That side there is okay. Anyway, we'll deal with that later. So this, I think, goes on there. So I've got a little bit of surface mount stuff there. There's a sufficient space, if you get this bang in the middle, there's sufficient space on the sides to get the iron on there. But I would add some dedicated flux. I'm going to use this chip quick flux here. But anyway, we'll do that next. Let's get this on first. So yeah, I just need to get that in position like that, and solder just 1 point. Make sure it's it's perfectly in position then before you commit to soldering any of the other points. So let's just add a little bit of solder. Don't start with a ground tab because you'll create yourself no end of pain actually, because that's going to need a lot of heat, that ground tab. Just do that like that on 1 pin. So you can see that's stable. So we'll now do the end pin over here, like that. I'll do the other ones in a minute. I'll get some flux on there and drag solder. But I think what I'm going to do now is anchor the ground over here actually. So yeah, this is where you may need to crank the temperature up considerably. I might actually need to get the I'm going to need to get the hot air station onto this or something, because look, it's absorbing all the heat. So let me go and get my Amtex, and I'll have a go at this with 2 irons, I think. To be honest, I think I've just about managed it there. You can see I've got a little flow here to that, so that's probably going to be okay. So I think what I'll do with these points here is just get a little bit of flux along here. It's just going to make it easier to avoid bridging them. And I'm going to try it with the same fine tip I've got here, which is not ideal, but it should be able to do it. Should be able to get sufficient solder onto each of those there. Yeah, you can see we're bridging there, but the flux stopped that from staying bridged. So if we just have a bit of a drag like that, yeah, see those are bridged. There's obviously a bit too much solder there, so just bob in. Oh yeah, I think we've managed that. You can see that that's not too bad. And obviously we've got a join there on the tab. You could get solder right underneath, underneath there and stuff, and mount that with hot air, but you know what, that's going to be fine. You can see I've just got that diode on there. Whilst I'm not going to clean all this with IP at this stage, as I say, where I have used additional flux, and I have here, obviously because I've got some surface mount stuff, I'm going to clean that off because I don't want to get my hands covered in that sort of flux. It's just really sticky. And you can see what I mean, I've soldered the solder points on the top side here. It just makes it look better, and it's obviously, perhaps a little bit more reliable. So we'll get this little inductor on next, I think. Now this is going to be pretty tight, because there's very little space on either side. Got to get it bang in the middle, as near as you can, and I think that's about it. And then I've moved the camera there, just so you can see this right-hand side. I want to get onto the edge. Oh, there you go, I've touched the component, see. This is the problem. What we have to do now is move it. I'll tell you what, let's just get a crazy amount of solder on there and slide it into position. Yeah, I'm just inspecting the right hand side while I do this to make sure that I've got sufficient space to solder, and I think I have. Again, this is absorbing tons of heat because it's a beefy component, and we've got beefy tracers there. But there you go, you can see we've got some solder there and some solder there, more on this side, but that isn't too bad. So I got R19, R20 and 21 here. I think that's 20, that's 21, I'm not sure. Yeah, so again, I've just soldered on the top side on one or two of those points there. The flux will all come off when I put this in the ultrasonic cleaner at the end, so it's going to look really good at the end, I think. But yeah, this is the way to go, just like I'm on number 6 now. I was going to go to capacitors, but I thought, well, I'll just follow the numbers. So we're on number 6, done the first 3, next one's 34. I'll show you that, just so you can, again, just get some ideas on how to bend the legs. So let me just find R34. Right, so R34 is here. Yeah, you can just literally go by eye. You know, you can see that it's about a millimetre or so. You can just bend it over like that. Gold bands I'm having all towards the top, towards the gold connector there, just so I can get it consistent looking. But it's a finicky, you know, pedantic thing really. Where's it gone now? There we go. Yeah, push it through. Now you can see straight away that's too wide. So just hold it on the other side, and then as you look on the other side, just pull it like this. Now with ceramic caps, you could break the cap if you did that. But if you pull it and then just bend them over, yeah, you get it like that, pretty much in the right position. There you go. So, like that one there, the solder's not flowed very well on the bottom point. The top side there, there's a little bead of solder. The bottom one there, it's kind of like not covering all the pads, so I'll just heat it and add just a tiny little bit of solder. Give it some time. And there we go, a nice little bead there. So the next thing, before I forget, I've just straightened the legs on this video encoder here. I think that's what it is. Let's just straighten it up, get it into the right place. Yeah, I'm going to solder that on. Just because as we solder some of these components around here, it's going to get fiddly trying to do the surface mount soldering. Yeah, so I had to anchor the top left corner here off camera, because I had to use my magnifier. But if we just anchor diagonal opposite there, so that's that one on that one, I'll just press it down. Felt it move a bit there, so it wasn't quite flat. That might be a consequence of some of the pins being bent, so it's important to push it like that. So that's that bit done. Just get some flux on there, and we can just do a bit of drag soldering. When you drag solder something like that, start from the side you haven't anchored it. If you start on the side you have anchored it, just by virtue of you know, pulling the iron, you may pull the chip out of position and bend the one pin on the other side where it's anchored. So, you know, we could start, we've got the anchor down here, we start on the left hand side there, and then just have a slow drag along here. It's absorbing a lot of heat there, actually. This is where my Antex iron would be better. A chisel tip for drag soldering is much better, but you could, you know, bob in and out like that. You can see I've just filled that hole there with a bit of solder, but we can always unblock that. That's not too bad. So I did all these ones yesterday. This is the following day. R9, I was having problems trying to find it. In the detailed assembly instructions there, it says R9 is above R17. That's R17. You can see there the via is over the 9, so you can't read it, just as R. So yeah, it's really helpful that that's documented in the build instructions. Right, that concludes all of the resistors, as you can see. Now the resistor arrays, pin 1 is on the left hand side top. So you might be able to see, can you see on the front of the package there's a dot? So yeah, pin 1 is at the top there, and you know, it's the same. And it's the same with those two, you can see, pin 1 is to the left, pin 1 is to the left. So we are onto some of the larger components now. These, you know, those took no time to get on. All of these little piddling resistors take blooming ages, just because there's so many different sizes. So other points of interest, there's an optional resistor here, R37. You will need that if you're getting problems loading from tape. It adjusts the sensitivity of tape loading. The next thing here are these transistors. Yeah, so Q1 is here, I think it goes Q1, Q2, Q3. So yeah, you can see there's a shape on the silk screen there, a semicircle, which corresponds with the shape of the component. I'm assuming that these are all correct, and you know, the silk screen markings there. Right, I went to eat something, a bag of crisps. I really should be eating more, but I don't have time. Yeah, the bit for OCD people that's going to really cheese you off is lining those transistors there. You can see that's about as good as I can get them. They're really fiddly and they're all packed really tightly. Again, it's one of these things you need to refer to this. This was the problem that Conrad had, that you got the base collector and emitter flipped around the wrong way. So you can see the board outline there. And it shows clearly ECB, and then the face of the transistor here with the A1175, is it, part number? Yeah, pin 1 is the emitter. So you need them all facing to the right hand side. So that was the first bag of components. I'm on to the last one, which is all of these things. So lots of capacitors. I was hoping they're all going to be 100 nanofarad, but there's quite a few different ceramics, look. Then the electrolytics, I'll do those last I think, the electrolytics, connectors and jumpers, crystals. Let's get the crystals on next I think. Why not? It's going to be easy compared to the stuff we've done. There's 3 actually, isn't there? One of these maybe if you're using an NTSC, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll get those connectors on last I think, and the speaker. You can get these on, those are going to be easy to do, and these I guess. So Y1 is down here, that's I think 14 megahertz. And then you've got 2 crystals here. Yeah, you can see there, that says NTSC, so that's going to be for the colour burst, isn't it, I think. 4.43, so this is the Y2 we want to fit. Because it's PAL. That one goes over here. When you're soldering crystals, try not to heat for extended period of time. Just wait until you get, clean solder point like that. Because crystals, when they expand, will crack inside. So far, putting these connectors on has been the best bit. I've really enjoyed doing that. This one here, can you see though? This diode. I'd fit that diode after you've done the connector because it's over the top of it. I now need to desolder that I think, or at least heat and move it across. I might just try and heat and bend it across. Let's try that, make some space for it. So we've got the remaining connectors on here. You've got to have these the right way up, so you can see this one here, it's got the gap at the bottom, that one's got the gap at the top. Got the jumpers on here as well, that one's for the EEPROM I think. It dictates whether ground or VCC goes to one pin, is it pin 27, I'm not sure. So I may need to change that depending on which EEPROM we get in here. That one there's for the speaker on or off, I think that's in the on position. And then these here are PAL NTSC, and I think they all need to be up like that for PAL. What else have we got? The reset jumper over here, so you can put a switch, if you put this in a plus case to reset it. Yeah, we're getting there, aren't we? It's just capacitors and sockets now, I think. So the temptation with this may be to save all the sockets and just fit the chips straight to the board, but yeah, I think it's better to have the sockets. If one of these just happens to be faulty or fails at some point in the future, you're going to regret it a lot less. It'll make it really easy to diagnose by swapping chips around and stuff. That's another point as well actually. You could always use this board to test other 7.4 series. I mean, obviously there's better, easier ways of testing things these days. You can do it on a TL866. Might need to do that yet if we have any problems here, but yeah, we'll get the sockets on. So with the sockets here, I soldered the first one on there and that one actually, those two are on. But then I've just started anchoring these and then making sure they're nice and straight. You know, if you only anchor the diagonals, if you see one that looks crooked, you can just heat that one point and just adjust the socket. It's really easy to try and get them nice and straight. I mean, it's only it's a pedantic thing again. Just looking at this, I think this socket needs, this socket needs a slight twist as well actually. Let's just do that. I think this side here just needs pushing that way, just a little bit as I heat that. Now it might already be far up that way, I might need to heat this one, pull that side down. Yeah, there's still a little bit of an irregular gap here. It's nearer to this socket here than it is there. So let's just do the opposite, let's heat this point here. Yeah, I felt it moved then just a little bit. It may have gone too far. Yeah, it's pedantic, it really is, because it's just a cosmetic thing, it makes no difference. And once it's inside a case, you won't see it anyway. But it's just the way I like to do things. So anyway, I'll continue anchoring them all on and then just go over all the solder points in one long hit. It's far quicker to do that. And then we're just finishing off with the caps. Now there are quite a lot of caps, so I'm not looking forward to that bit. This bit is quite enjoyable though. Right, and one socket short, and I think it's because this array here, I think it's a resistor array of some sort. Yeah, I think you're supposed to just maybe solder that in, so I'll just go and get one of my spare sockets that's the right size, and that will deal with that. I've got this ESD foam here we can use for storage and chips as well afterwards. But we won't get any of these on until we've cleaned the board up and got all the caps on and finished it off really. So I'll put one of my sockets on there. Now everything is in position and they look pretty straight. There's probably the odd one that you may be able to see that doesn't look that straight, but yeah, the next thing's to solder the million solder points on the underside. I'll report back in about 3 hours. I'll show you one of these. Let's just whiz through maybe this one in the middle here, if I can. Once you get into the zone, it doesn't take too long, actually. It's just adding a fairly consistent amount of solder. Does it go right up here? Yeah, it does. So that one didn't have very much solder on there, I can tell. And then typically I will do this, I'll just bob along to resize them. So yeah, that just adds a bit of additional time for me. Anyway, you get the idea. I'll show you when I'm done. So that probably took me about an hour. You can hear the extractor here from ZX Kim. It's a good idea to have a good ventilation while you're doing a very high volume of soldering like that. Yeah, so it looks an absolute state, doesn't it? There's going to be the odd solder point that needs resizing there, and obviously a lot of flux to remove. I think before I put it in the ultrasonic, I may just go over this with the toothbrush and some IPA first, just to get the and cotton buds to get the majority of it off, because otherwise it's going to take ages in the ultrasonic probably. So all that's outstanding now are the capacitors and obviously the chips. We need to program up a ROM as well. So with the electrolytics, there's non-polarized, so you don't need to worry about which way around that goes. The square pad is the positive, the round pad is the negative. Been testing these as I've gone along. Now there's no, as far as I remember, there's no negative voltages on this particular spectrum. Obviously on the original one you would have had like -5 and maybe -12, I can't remember. I think it was +12 actually. So yeah, that's something to just bear in mind when you're dealing with other boards, that your polarity, if you've got negative voltages, you may have the cap the other way around. Well, you would have the cap the other way around on a negative rail, but these are all the normal polarity. So besides that bipolar one, the square pad, as I say, positive, the round pad on each of them is the negative. So it probably took me about an hour and 3/4 to finish soldering all of the solder points on there, and to get all of the ceramic caps on. And there are about 5 or 6 different sizes of those. That just seemed to go on forever and ever and ever. The hardest one to find was this one down here, C30. I went around this board about 20 times and I was like, there is no C30. It must be the instructions. And I went around the instruction check, no, there's nothing there. So to say that C30 is a mistake. And I kid you not, I spent 10 minutes trying to find C30. It does get easier towards the end, because obviously you've got fewer and fewer and fewer spaces to check for. Yeah, so the resistors were painful, the capacitors were painful, the volume of solder points on the sockets, yeah, just time consuming. Getting the sockets on and just anchoring them in the corners was pretty easy. After about 15 minutes I had them all on. The service mount stuff, as you saw, was easy. But if you've never done it before, you may find that challenging. The connectors were the easiest bit. Those were fun. I actually enjoyed putting the connectors on, because it was literally a 2-minute job for all of them, and got them nice and straight. This kind of looks like a Mega Drive or Saturn or something, doesn't it? Mega Drive Model 2 AV connector. It probably isn't. The pinout's probably different. You probably need a specific cable. But anyway, and actually I think that's covered in the instructions that come with it. You can make your own RGB cable, so I probably will do that. So the next thing to do is I'm just going to inspect the solder points here, just remove any excess solder where it needs it, and then start to clean this up and put it in the ultrasonic. Now obviously this board is too big for this, so I'll do it in 2 halves. You know, if we just tilt it over, well, it's going to be 2/3, isn't it? I could, in theory, I don't know, move this around a bit. I'll just give it a go to see what we can do. Anyway, let's switch this on. Brace your ears. Right, wrist strap is on, and I've got a list of all the ICs here. Obvious ones, well, the large ones, these are blatantly obvious, and it's only the CPU. So yeah, pins look absolutely brand new on that. I'll give you a better look at that. It's an official Zilog one, look. Really nice. So let's get that in. Pin 1 is at the top. The sockets that are orientated that way all have pin 1 towards the top. In fact, all of the sockets are that way, aren't they? Oh, well, apart from these 3 here. Yeah, I think that went in okay. If I have any problems, I'm just going to take that back out and check it, because it made a bit of a clicky sort of noise, didn't it? Now, I think these are both RAMs here, aren't they? Yeah, they are. So I think the 32K, aren't they? 32K and 32K gives you 64. So technically, you've got more RAM here than the sockets. That made a weird noise there. Yeah, more RAM than the system can utilise. You need 48K. So that's interesting. Yeah, these sockets are different to the sockets I use. They make a bit of a clicking noise. I think they're really good quality, the sockets, actually. Anyway, I'll report back in a minute, but as I say, I'm just going to be referring to this to get the IC position number and the type, and then just fit them in here. Now, it's probably a result of old stock or something. Can you see how tarnished those legs are? This is a brand new 574 out of the kit here. Yeah, it looks kind of ready. It looks kind of ready. I'm just going to... Oh, look at that. It's just surface. Can you see that? It's just a little bit of surface oxidisation. So, yeah, it's always worth checking things like this. This isn't a fault of Byte Delight, really, because you get this. You can buy new chips from eBay, and they come like this. It literally is just a bit of light oxidisation. But, yeah, deal with it before... I bent a pin there. Before you fit it in the socket. Yeah, there we go. That's going to go in now, I think. That's it. Let's have a look at the next one while we're here. Yeah, these can you see they look a bit reddy? Look, we've got red, 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 red. All the others look alright. It's just something around here and here as well, look. So, I'm not really sure what's caused that. Can you see it? They look red. That's really weird. I've never seen them like that before. Now, this kit has been obviously in a box. Look, it wipes off as well. Just wipes straight off. It's almost like dirt, actually. I don't think it's even corrosion. I think it's something's just got on there from the environment. It could be that something was sprayed in the area and a little bit of the spray has gone on there. I don't know, it's a little bit strange. But what I was going to say is they've been in the box here, sealed, for about a month or so. So, yeah, and they're red on the inside as well. I don't really know what's happened there. Anyway, I will just continue to do this, clean them up as I go along, and fit them. Now, surprisingly, I'm having to do these on most of the chips here, despite the fact I thought it was just a few of them. It's most of them. Now, the first thought is this stuff, the foam, because it's conductive, you can get corrosion. You know, if you've got moisture in the air environment, you know, it's about humidity. That can react with pins. I've seen that in the past. But it's not on the inside. If you look at the inside, see that, look at the inside of those legs there. I haven't cleaned them, but they're alright. I'm wiping them anyway. It's just the outside. So actually it's something from the environment where these were prepared. I think, because it's just a bit pink, that, I think it was like it's a coating of something, I don't know what. Maybe someone was painting something red nearby with spray, and some of it just happens to have got on here. You can see it more here. Look at these. You can see how red those look, but it's actually all of them. Some of them, look, these ones here as well. It's random. Some of them are perfectly okay, and others I'm having to wipe. Yeah, it's very strange. So that's all the chips on there. We've got one left, look, a 253. So I think there might be one extra 253, which is not a problem. It's just an extra spare. I think that's it. So I think the only thing. Oh, hang on. There's something up here. That's the 253, isn't it? Is that U41? Oh, it's a 257. Let me just check that. Hang on. Yeah, it's a 257. That's what I've got left. So that's all right. I haven't got an extra chip. I just couldn't see that socket for the life of me. So let's just get this last one on. And then the final thing is a ROM. Now, I vaguely remember Spark sending me some ROMs a while back, and I think they were original Sinclair ones, so I might just be able to fit the original one on there. Let me just go and see if I can find it. So we need to program up a ROM. Now, I had a problem with this where it was just showing black and white lines down the screen, and then I realised you'll have been screaming at the camera, the ROM was in the RAM socket and vice versa. I had the RAM in the wrong place. So yeah, swapped those around, but yeah, the ROMs I've got here, I thought this had BASIC on it. It's still doing the same thing. So it's a 27C512. You can see it's a WinBond. It's an EEPROM, so it should be erasable. So if we get this in, where's pin 1 on here? Yeah, so your pin 1 goes to the left on this. It's a TL866 Mini Pro. Close that. Sometimes I'll just wobble it a little bit. Sometimes I'll even wobble it a little bit like that as I close it, because what happens, you get a bit of friction and then it makes a good connection. I mean, you could just clean the legs up before you stick it in. Anyway, if we select that chip in the software, and we've got a hex editor open. I'm sorry about the refresh rate. I can see the lines coming down the display here. It's this monitor. But anyway, if I just close these, I tried doing this a minute ago and I messed it up. What I did, well, I didn't mess it up. I copied 4 copies of the 48K ROM because it's a 64K chip, this, and the ROM is 16K. So I copied the 48K ROM 4 times, wrote it to the chip, and that worked in BASIC. And then I did the same with diagram, and I had a diagram. And then I thought, well, let's have a chip that's got the 2 things, because there's a jumper on the board which I think switches one of the address lines. And yeah, I put BASIC in the lower half of 32K and base and the diagram in the upper. It didn't work. It was still stuck on one ROM. I think it was BASIC or something that was showing all the time. It could have been diagram that was showing all the time. And I've just worked out what it is. It's because it's expecting a 32K chip. So what we need to do is, if we just open the 48K ROM there, so we've got that ROM, and then we'll open the diagram there as well. So I've got both ROMs open, and I'm going to select all of the diagram. Select all that and then choose copy, so it's in the clipboard. And then in the 48K ROM, I'm going to go page down all the way to the bottom. Now when you get to the bottom, can you see the cursor is here flickering away underneath the very last line? If I press page down, it's not going any further. This is Hex Workshop, by the way. But you could use other hex editors here. And then I'm going to choose edit, paste. Hang on, where's it gone? Paste. And then just click OK. And if I page down now, we've now got the BASIC ROM at the top and we've got diagram at the bottom. Yeah, so then what I'll do then is select all of that ROM, copy that, page down to the bottom again, page, right down to the last character here. We'll do Control V and paste. OK, so that's it now. So we've got, I think we've got 48K BASIC, then the diag, then BASIC, then the diag. So I'm thinking now the jumper on the board should allow me to switch between BASIC and the diagram. So if I now save that file, so I've got combined BASIC and diagram, save, yep, close that. So I've opened the software here. This is version 6.85. This is a newer version if you've got a newer programmer, but this is the last version that supports the programmer I have. There is a newer model, a Plus or something, I think. And you can see I've selected WinBond W27C512. And if I do device, let's do erase, and then click erase. One of these chips was playing up a bit. That one seems to have erased. We'll do a blank check just to make sure it is actually blank. Blank check. So it scans up there. Code check, code memory empty. So then I did file open, and I've opened that combined ROM, the 64K one that's it's got BASIC diag, and we can just simply hit device program. Hopefully that'll work, and then we can go test it. And there we go, verified OK. So I think, if I've got this right, this should work. So you can see what I mean. I think I had, let me think about this, I had that RAM there, and I had that socket there empty, thinking that was for the ROM, and it isn't. I could be wrong. It could have been this one that was empty here. I thought the ROM went there, and it didn't. But anyway, that's what you got. You've got RAM there, and the ROM goes here. Pin 1 is at the top here. So let's just carefully get that in. That's it. And this jumper here, I think, switches one of the upper address lines on that. But I am assuming it's the upper address line, assuming you use a 27C256. That's why, like I say, when I had 2 copies of BASIC at the top, 2 copies of diagram, it wasn't swapping. It's just doing it's swapping between the lower 16K banks, I think. Let's see. So if I plug the power in. Sorry, it's a little over bright, but you can see that that is working. So if I switch it off, and I'm just going to move that jumper over, it's in the upward position at the moment. I'm going to put it downwards. You do have to be careful around there, because there's 2 other jumpers, I'll show you in a minute, that simply provide power. There we go, look at that. Sweet. So I've got the best of both worlds. I don't need to swap the chip around. If I want to diagnose something, I can switch it back into the diagnostics mode, and if I just want to use it as a normal machine, I can have it in the other position and get BASIC. So yeah, I'm really happy. It's amazing it worked first time as well. That's a bit of good luck, really. I mean, alright, I was checking everything as I went along, but you know, it's just come out really well, hasn't it? If you look at it, it's like the condition of it, it's exceptional. I've done a fantastic job. I'm very, very pleased with that. And of course, using that diagram, we can just test the RAM and stuff here, just let that go through, make sure it's alright. Now, I don't have a keyboard at the moment, so of course, that causes me some challenges. There'll be a separate video on this probably soon. I'll dig into some of the lesser used functions and things, just to give it a bit of a review. So if we just carefully get that on, the SD card is in, and connect the power, press the button, the NMI button, menu comes up. So yeah, that's working. It's got a good M1 on it. This cartridge works. I also did test the Lotharac cart as well. Perhaps have a look at that one later, but I've shown it before. So it's worth talking about some obvious points that I didn't show you here that I did. And that is, before you get all the chips in, measure your 5 volts out of here, connect power up, make sure you've got 5 volts on the respective, the VCC pin, which is, the upmost pin on each of these, so pin 1 is to the left of the top of there, the upmost pin on the right, that's VCC. It's worth doing that before you get the chips in, just to make sure you've got 5 volts. But also, temperature check, you can test these things here, that bridge, got 9 volts DC coming through here. Now, the bridge rectifier, you just feed AC in, but the nice thing with the bridge, it doesn't matter about polarity, you can feed DC straight through it. Current is something you need to think about with things like that, so that will just get, it's like barely above room temperature actually. You can barely feel any temperature on that whatsoever, but it's something to think about when you've got a power supply feeding DC through a bridge. But you can do that on there, and it means you're never going to need to worry about what you put in there. It's just the voltage. Obviously, you don't want to go too high because, this regulator may have a problem. But everything around here is stone cold. Even the chips themselves are stone cold, even though it's on at the moment. But measuring the 5 volts, good idea. And obviously, if it wasn't booting from there, you could check the clock on here. You could use a scope or something on the 2 crystals, make sure those are working. But if you've gone for a kit like this from Byte Delight, all of these components I think have been tested in advance, so it'd be very unusual to have a fault unless you'd soldered something incorrectly, missed a solder point, got a transistor around the wrong way, or a diode around the wrong way or something here. Right, so some parts have arrived. You can see we've got the keyboard kit here. The surprising thing with this is it's assembled. It was supposed to be a kit. You're supposed to solder all these on, so alright, it saved me a load of time here. Now, he did explain when he was sending this, the chap at ZX Renew, that he couldn't find the switches. I think he had a bag of 500 somewhere, he couldn't find them, so I am guessing he's sent me one that he already had pre-assembled, I think. What have we got here? We've got feet for the underneath, that's nice, screws for the case. We've got the nice yellow thing here. Doesn't that look nice? Really nice 3M tape there. Oh god, that's gorgeous. I'm also pleased with the colour of the keys. Originally I was going to go with the yellow, but I actually think the original keys contrast quite nicely with that yellow. The thing I'm surprised at is the plastic yellow here looks yellower, I don't think you can tell that, than it does on the website. It kind of looked more like a dark yellow like this on the website, so there's a subtle contrast between those two, but nevertheless it's lovely, isn't it? Really nice. None of this 3D printed rubbish either. Well, I say rubbish, 3D printer's great, isn't it? But it's not 3D printed, it's moulded. It's even got the Sinclair thing there on the bottom, it's lovely. What a nice case. So, yeah, we'll start by just lifting the... Oh, hang on, it's got a screw. There's one screw holding it in. Let's just turn that upside down. Let's get that screw out. There we go, so that's the screw out. So hopefully, hang on, stuck down. The lid should come off now. Will the lid come off? What is going on here? There we are. Yeah, so I got the lid off. So let's get the board in. Fits nicely, I think, over those little posts there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, perfect fit there. Everything's lined up. Of course, one problem you do have with these is you've got the AV connector there. Then there's, you could cut a hole for that. I may do that, just so there's a gap. But yeah, I have no intentions of using that just yet. I'm not sure. I think those are just for the case, aren't they? Let's just count how many screw holes there are on the underside. 5. Yeah, there's always 5, isn't there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. So we've got 2 extra screws. Yeah, I mean, technically the board's going to be held in by these things here anyway, isn't it? But I always remember there being a single screw on these. Yeah, there usually is. I think on the original Spectrum there's a single screw in the middle. But of course we don't have that, so we don't need to worry about it. There's nowhere else to stick a screw there. The screws going through the bottom will hold the board in. So anyway, that's that. So I think the next thing I need to do is open this up actually and solder the wires on. Let's just take this off, and we've got the new rubber keys here. So these are all separate parts. You can buy these if you want one of those, a custom one or a replacement one, and obviously you can buy these in various colours again. There's like translucent, red, blue, etc. I'll stick some pictures up from the website. But ultimately, I think this is just a transit thing. What you do with these is you break them off, and you can solder the wires like that, and then of course you can plug that little PCB into the socket on the motherboard. So there's a few different ones there. I'm not quite sure why there's so many actually. Now, do these need cutting down because they're both the same size? That's the next question here. Let me move the lid out of the way. If we just compare these here, so you can see, you know, one of these here is going to go into there, like that. Yeah, I'll have this wire soldered on and it'll plug in. And I quite like that, rather than trying to shove wires in there like that. That's going to be a nightmare. I think we've got one wire too many there, have we? Let's just count those. Yes, we have, I think. We've got one wire more than needed. That might be the smallest strip he could get. And of course it's the same over here. You know, going to need to cut it down because it's too thick. And then presumably use that little one there. Yeah, that is the right size. It's curious how that's got... Has they got the same amount of pins? Yeah, that's the right size. So there's two of each there. I'm not sure why you would do that, unless it was because you could put a connector on here and have it so it's detachable, maybe. But you know, I'm just going to be. Hang on, why have we got one more wire there than here? That's a strange one. Anyway, now we know, I think, roughly what we're doing here. Let's just see if we can compare this to this. Now it's going to go that way because obviously the wires are going to come through these gaps here, and the holes, yeah, everything lines up there, look, I think. Bear in mind the thing that's stopping it going at the moment is these, so we're going to break those off because there's no point in them being there. Let's just see if we can do it at the point, maybe. Yeah, so you can see you've got that off, no problems at all. There's an overhang on both sides here. I'm just deliberately trying to get it right up to the edge there. That's it. See, that broke a little bit unevenly there. I can file that down in a minute, and obviously we need to break these ones off as well, so I'll do the same thing. Pliers may be the best thing because you get a nice break there. And let's do that one. Yeah, there we go. So it's quite a thin PCB this, and this is what you need. Now, the one thing I wasn't sure about is, are these buttons going to be a problem with the rubber buttons? Well, let's test it out next, I think. Let's see if we can get it in. Yeah, so there we go. Perfect. Don't even need to trim this off here. There's a sufficient gap to make that fit perfectly. So if we just sit that there and simulate how we're going to assemble it. Oh, yes. That's really nice. So just making sense of this, the keyboard membrane here, you know, this PCB, anti-ghosting keyboard with backlight support, yeah, for rubber ZX Spectrum. So you can see there's some pads that are not populated here. You can fit some LEDs on here. Now, I think this is what these are for. You've got plus and minus, plus and minus. So the ribbons are going to go on the inside connections there. That makes sense. We've got 5 pins on the smaller one, and yeah, 8 on the larger one there. So we just need to trim these down because I think this has got 1 pin too many, hasn't it? Yeah, it has. But the way you buy this kit normally is these keys are, you know, the buttons, micro switches here are not pre-installed. So it's really nice that he's done that. And I think there's a diode with each one, which is probably where the anti-ghosting thing comes in. So we need one less on this side, so hang on, let me just find the gap. So we've got the gap there. What I quite like about this is these have got quite a thick thing on them. Hang on. You do have to be careful with this stuff to a degree, because otherwise you can tear where you don't want to tear. Let's get that one off. Yeah, there we go. So I've got one there we don't need. So that should now be perfect to solder on there. Are these numbered? No, they're not. I'm going to do it that way around with the red stripe to the right anyway, so that will go onto there. And we'll just do the same thing, just tear down there. So just trying that PCB out back in here again, just to work out where the best place to solder. Now bear in mind it's going to be pretty flat, and if we flatten it, you can see, you know, there's a gap on the top and bottom there, but it's probably better just to solder them like that, in line, rather than through the holes, I think, just so it doesn't catch and it feeds through a little bit easier. So yeah, that's what we'll do, we'll solder on the underside. So let's just try and get that into position. I'm just going to adjust it slightly here, just to get it a bit straighter. Hang on. There we go, that's more central. So we've got that one pin soldered there, and then I'll beef up the solder on these, just bend that straight a little bit there. What is going on here? There we go. Obviously it's absorbing a bit of heat, that. The crazy thing is it's going right down the trace, it's not coming up here where I want it. That'll do. So yeah, that's one on, and of course it's going to get bent like that right round and stuff. So let's stick this one on. So again, we'll stick the red stripe towards the right. So yeah, not super tidy solder, but that should do the job. So the next thing to do is to just fit these two connectors on now. I need to trim them down first, don't I? I need to get rid of the green bit there, so I think we'll just use the cutters for that. This is perhaps why you get two lots of these, just in case. Well, as I say, you could also have one if you've got a detachable. So I've cut that one down as well. Could always just move out of the way. Could always just file the end of that down just to smooth it a little. Yeah, that'll do. We'll do the same with that one as well. It's perhaps a bit narrow on that side and that side, but it's not going to be a problem. The main thing is just getting it to go in. Right, that's it. Those are soldered on. So I'm just going to just clean this one here, because we used a bit of braid to remove the bit of solder I got on the pad there. I think this is a good measure. We'll do the same with the other one as well, just in case it's a bit dirty. And then I think we can go try it. It's going to go like that under there, isn't it? So let's just, hang on, we're going to have to bend this a little bit. Let's just bend it and put it in. That's that. And bend this one and put that one in. And I press a key, let's press enter. Hey, works. Where's space? That's space. Yeah, so keyboard is working. That's Q, W, E, P. So yeah, working fine. So yeah, very pleased with that. S isn't very clicky. Oh yes it is. Anyway, we can test all the keys out in a minute with the diagnostics. I think there's a keyboard test in there. So the next thing to do is put it back into this. Let's just disconnect power. Let's pull those out. So I really do like having these little edge connectors like that. It's just so much better. One problem with this plastic is it's attracting dust and fluff and hairs and things for fun. So yeah, this is the tricky bit that I was worried about. There we go, fitting it through there, and it fits alright actually. So if we edge that into position, there we go. And these are now going to need to be bent in such a way that they reach where they're supposed to reach and go like that. So they kind of want to go like that, really, don't they? Yeah, it's got quite tight fitting on there. You can see it's like really springy, sticking up now. Let's stick this one on as well. So let's stick that right down there. I mean, it's nice having long wires like this, but yeah, it's going to be alright, I think. So let's just squeeze. Look, it stays up like that, just because it's so taut, and the length of it. But when you screw it together and squash it down, you can see up here actually it's getting a little bit trapped. It needs to be pushed further down that way, I think. Like that, otherwise it's just going to get in the way. Let's try that. Good God, that's really difficult to get together now. I actually think cutting those short might be an idea. If you're building one of these yourself, don't have them as long as I've got them. Right, let's try with that on it and see what it's like. Bear in mind it's not screwed together at the moment. Hang on. Yeah, that works really well. Haha, I love it. Hang on a minute, this has moved now. Oh, there we are. That's all. So let's put that back over there. Fits nicely into the gap. And let's stick that over there. I'm kind of tempted to not stick that down, actually. Now it's the age-old problem at the ends, you know, the wings stick out. You really do need to tape it down. Anyway, let's just try it out for size. If you press on the side, obviously it's not going to click. You've got to be bang in the middle. I mean, you can press it from the side if you press quite hard. Yeah, shall I commit to sticking that down? I'm not sure actually at this stage. I might just try and straighten it a little bit first because it isn't as straight as it could be. Obviously when you stick it down it should be, but yeah, it's this age-old thing here with the edges. They all do this, even the original ones, and that's where they come undone. It's always going to be very difficult producing anything like this. The original ones are all the same. And there's a bit of an imperfection there. Can you see that on that edge? I don't know what that is. It's like a black mark or something. I might be able to wipe that off. But yeah, it's excellent. Overall, it's excellent. I just wish I could get it to just sit. So these are nice. Modern new feet. Obviously got to separate them like that. That's one. Is that on straight? I think it is. Have they got a thing on the bottom there? They've got a thing on the bottom as well, look. That's a bit strange. Is it sticky on the bottom? Hang on a minute, what's that? No, it's not. It's just a cover. It's really mysterious having a protective cover on a foot, isn't it? Whose idea was that? Is that straight? I don't know. Let's just peel that off. It's weird having protective covers on rubber feet. That's the first for me. Obviously these feet are so high quality and they've got little protective covers on them. It's unbelievable. You'll be having protective covers on the screw heads next. Yeah, there we go. It's funny when you press it down you can hear the keys clicking. Oh. Simplest of things amuse me. Hang on, let's get that off. There we go. No doubt someone in the comments is going to be moaning saying, should have left those on, it'll be worth more in 10 years when it's still got those covers on it. Hang on. There we are. So, it now has some rubber feet. So whilst messing with the fascia there, one thing I realised, it was uneven, and you can see here, can you see these have gone through? You push this, look, and it intentionally comes through little gaps. There's little gaps like in the silicone where it's weaker, that's designed for those little pieces of plastic on the underside to pierce through, and of course until you've done that you won't have a level playing field. So yeah, that's is something you need to do. Just press it. We've got some over here, look, on this side here was sticking right up. There we go, that's why. So if we just, you know, press around there, it's over the little things. That's fantastic. So now, yeah, you can still see it's raised a bit here. Now this is because this side's popped out, look. So yeah, some massaging and stuff just to get it in just the right position. Yeah, now it's nice and level all the way across, I think. You can see it's not really bulging in the middle. Now that is an imperfection. I've looked under the magnification. The yellow paint's just chipped off on the very corner there. So yeah, I mean, it's a small thing. You can't really see it. You can from there. You can't really from the front. I could just colour match this yellow and just touch the edge of that. Now it really is a pedantic thing, but you can see from the front there, can you see? It kind of looks black there. And if I just try and roll this round, I'll put the finger there to get focus, you can see it's just at a bit of a dint there. It's like that, straight out the box. So this is just me being unlucky. I've said this on other videos, whenever I get anything there's always some little thing, but that's just so minorly cosmetic. I don't know if you can say I've almost colour matched that. It's almost the same colour, it's not, perhaps not quite, but all we're doing here is just literally just touching this edge. I am not doing anything else other than that, really. Because it's kind of like black looking, isn't it? In fact, already that looks better. Perhaps the edge, the very top edge here, just needs going over. And obviously I can wipe any excess. If I got too much here, I can just wipe it with some paper towel. Yeah, that's going to do it. Can you see that? I can't. I can't see it now. It's, yeah, so my hand's shaking a bit. I kind of like, because it's not dry, but yeah, that's just going to detract. It's just going to take my eye away from it, I think. I can barely see that now. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see the difference there straight away. So yeah, you can tell something's happened here, obviously, because that's had a dint. It's not just the paint, but it doesn't catch my eye now, because it's pretty much the same colour. So yeah, I'm just going to pull the tape off and stick it down. So I've just blown any dust off there, inspected, made sure it's totally flat. All of the tape has been removed from this. Get it the right way up. Try not to touch that edge where I've painted it. And let's try and stick this on. So if we push out from the middle, I think, and then down at the sides, it's not sticking, is it? This is what I was worried about, because that membrane thing underneath is making it stick up, if that makes sense. Yeah, so now I've got a gap here, look. It's weird, isn't it, how it's on all the way around apart from just the top bit. Well, that's super annoying. You know, look, I've got the things here. Yeah, that's the backing from the other one long bit, and that's the backing from the other one. So I definitely pulled them off. Yeah, here, can you see the gap? We've got a gap. I wonder if the tape wasn't in the right place. Maybe it wasn't up to the edge up here. That's a possibility. But this side here, totally flat. Sides, totally flat. And if I was to try and peel this off now, I will bend it. So, yeah, learn from my mistake there. Inspect the tape first of all, just to make sure it is on properly. So I think I solved that by pressing really blooming hard here. Potentially I probably, you know, warped the aluminium a little bit, but it's nice and smooth and flat there now. And pressing it down that way seems to have made the tape join. So that's all it was. That's all it was. Nothing really wrong there. Just bear in mind, you know, you do need to put equal pressure and stuff all around to get it nice and flat. But if yours is sticking up like mine was here, just press really hard there, and it should join like that. That's perfect now. Absolutely perfect. I am so pleased. So the final result there, you can see straight away this has come back up here. So yeah, I am not sure why that doesn't stay stuck down. It's really mysterious. I think it's because if you rewind back and look at that plastic on this yellow here, the laptop yellow, the main case, the ledge, the thickness of it is really thin. It's like just on the very edge there. So what I would suggest doing there, if you're worried about that, is get an additional layer of double-sided tape and stick it over the one that's there, so you've got two layers, because that just marginal difference could make the difference between it sticking and not sticking. But you know what, it's a minor thing. Now, I know I've been a bit moany about that sticking up there and the little dink, but you know what, overall the quality is exceptional. So it was pretty expensive. I'll stick how much it was up here for the plastic pieces here, you know, the keyboard, the switch PCB and everything. So I reckon, I'm just guessing here, I think overall it's probably cost me around £150, £160 to build. Now bear in mind I didn't purchase the PCB, that was donated by Conrad, and in actual fact the one I ended up using here was the one that was donated by Electronash. So yeah, working fine. So let's do define keys. So I am going to use keys just to give this a proper test. Left, right, down, up, hit, pause, and let's start that. So yeah, the first thing I would say is it's a little bit harder perhaps to use when you've got clicky keys versus the sponge keys, but I don't know, at least you get a definitive click, you know you've actually pressed it. The trick is to get all these guys on the right hand side, just boot them all off of the edge. It's a bit of a cheat really. There's a new version of this, by the way. It's been redone with, I think, I'm not sure what they changed. I think they changed added more colour, but I think they also changed the maps slightly. It's more representative of the arcade version, I think. I need to get them on the other side, don't I? That's the problem here. How on earth did you beat him? I honestly can't remember that. I think you just boot him over the edge, but yeah, seemingly I'm sucking at it. Enter, select keys. Right, here we go. Left, right, up, down, fire, detach. We'll do V. Hang on a minute, why can't we do V? I need to test that key's working in a minute, don't I? Let's try D. Yeah, the V key was not working there, so that's a bit strange. Might be my first repair on this. Yeah, I would say it's pretty hard using a rubber key Spectrum to play, keys. It always was. It's a little bit better with these clickable switches. Micro switches, as they're commonly known, rather than clickable switches. Anyway, yeah, it's alright, I could play this. But I am getting sore, not really sore, but tired fingers. Hang on, yeah, see, I failed to press left there. And let's press V. Yeah, look, V's not working. So we've got a problem with one key. Oh, that's annoying, especially because I've stuck the blooming thing down. It worked there, look, when I pressed it really hard. Now it's working. So that's an important point. Before you stick this fascia, this plate down, do make sure all your blooming keys work, because you're going to regret it. But now it's working, and all I did is I pressed it really hard and then it started working. A bit like I've shown on another keyboard, so the switches where you press it a number of times then it starts to work, and now it's pretty reliable actually. I'll show you. So I can just press it gently and it's pretty much always registering. I think I need to just test some of the others now actually, just make sure they all work. So I've got bouncing bomb there. I think I've shown this one before actually. Yeah, I can't remember what the keys are. Ah, yeah, it's QAOP, isn't it? I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do on this. Get the keys, I think. Yeah, if you hold down, you bounce less. Oh. Let's try Invaders. Yeah, so this was a remake, wasn't it? Again, I've shown this before. Don't know what the keys are for this. Yeah, it's OP and A. It's quite a cool version of Invaders, I do like it. Just like the C64, there's loads of homebrew that you can now buy, developers actually developing modern games, or new games I should say, rather than modern. One thing to consider before you buy something like this is maybe think whether you want the 128K one or not. Yeah, so you can only jump left or right, but I think depending on how long you hold the button depends on how far you jump. And whilst he's jumping around the surface there, that's actually the aim of the game, to get out. I think he falls down that hole there, doesn't he? Yeah, that's right. So the aim on this one is to get right back up to the top. Has that started the game? I think it has. Yeah, there we go. So I can just tap right. Yeah, there we go. So you can see by doing long jumps and short jumps, especially as you become familiar with the map, you can work out where you need to go, and you can move the screen around. I think there was some key options for that, wasn't there? Oh, I'm doing very badly. I'm right down the bottom again, look. Not sure if I've shown this one before, but this is a classic game. Again, I played this as a kid. I just loved the complexity of this. It's a simple game, but at the same time it's got a little bit of depth to it. So yeah, you control your little droid, and I think you can, how do you do that? Yeah, you can collect little repair patches there. Yeah, you can open the doors. I'm not sure I should have stuck that patch there actually. Can I pick it back up? Yeah, I can. So yeah, you can open the doors, navigate the ship. You can see up the top here, you've got the map of the ship effectively. Let's just stick that there a sec. Let's have a look in there. In fact, using that map at the top, you can see where the flooding's coming in. If you look at the little white blocks, you can see some of the rooms below us are flooding. So we go down, there you go, and you put the patch on the top there, that stops the flooding getting worse. And you can see there's a thing there, a pump, there's no lever. Oh, hang on a minute, there's no room, no way to get to the room next door, is there? I think what you can do is you can pull the lever off here. Yeah, you can. And then go down, put the lever on there. I think I've just drowned actually. Yeah, you have a finite amount of power. So the plan is to stop the water flooding the entire ship. But you can see my power's going down though, look. I use X to pump it out like. And I think you can actually get more power. So you've got to watch your power and then you've got to go back and recharge before you die. I'm going to die again here. But anyway, you get the idea. Start game. There we go. So yeah, whilst it's a bit slow and the sound's pretty clunky and the calls are awful, you know what, I've got fond memories playing this, certainly on the +2. You can pull a wheelie, can't you? It's not bad though, the Spectrum was better at this type of game compared to the C64. It just had that little bit more processing power, running at 4 MHz there. And the Z80 I think was just more capable really when it came to stuff like this. Lunar Jetman. Wow, this was a game that just blew me away. I mean, I like Jetpack as well, but I mean, all of the Ultimate Play the Game games were just fantastic. I cannot believe how hard this is off camera. I've played this about 7 times now to try and show you how this works. Press start. Right, Z to pick up the bomb. Go over it. Hang on. There we go. Right, keep firing, keep firing, keep firing. I need to drop it onto the bomb. Oh, I've blown it up now. Get another bomb. What you do is you put it on the back of there, like that. There we go. And then you get into the truck, although it's in a hole now, so that's not going to work. It'll straight anyway. Oh, no, you get girders out from the truck, that's right. You go up to the truck. I'll try to hold fire down. And press Z, gives you a girder, and then, oh, you drop them. You saw that there before the meteorite took it out. This is incredibly hard. I used to be able to master this as a kid. I'm lucky if I can survive more than a few seconds now. I think actually all these aliens that come on from the sides, if you go further across the screen, you can probably find where they're coming from. And you might be able to take out their little base. I don't know, maybe not. I might be imagining things. Because there's nothing up here, look, and the sign says right hand towards the truck. But the aim is to get the bomb onto the truck, fill any of the holes in the ground with, I'm out of power armour. Out of fuel. Yeah, you fill the any of the holes in the ground there so you can get the truck to the left hand side, you drive all the way to the left, you take the bomb to the alien base, you pick the bomb up off the back of the truck and you drop it onto the alien base. It's really good, trust me, it's a really good game, but it's rock solid for me at the moment. I need to practice it a little bit, I think. So that feels like a good place to end the video really. I could spend hours and hours and hours playing this now, and I likely will do. So the only thing I regret is that it's not got 128k RAM and it's not got the you know, the YM sound or whatever it is that you got on the, you know, the toast rack and the +2 and stuff. You can add sound by a cartridge I think on the back, and I have seen a 128k RAM upgrade for these. There's a little PCB that fits inside. I think Silver Fox is one of the guys that's designed one of those. Yeah, and obviously this thing here sticking up, I could deal with that. As I say, I could just get a bit of glue, just lift it a little bit like that, get a little bit of glue under with a fine, you know, cocktail stick or something, and then just do that. I might do that off camera. So a huge thanks to Conrad for the original PCB, Electronash for the other PCB. As I say, one of those went to Sparks UK. Thanks to Sparks UK for doing the order with Byte Delight. It just meant that we only had one lot of shipping for 2 of these, because he wanted a kit and I wanted a kit. And then obviously the plastic shell, the rubber keys here, the tactile membrane, you know, with the buttons and stuff, proper PCB there, and this you know, cover here, all came from ZX Renew. So again, there'll be a link down below to them. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I'll catch you in the next video.